This golden, serene figure is the modern face of the Buddha, a tranquil, eternal deity existing far above the reach of ordinary life. But the historical reality was far more grounded. In the 5th century BCE, Siddhartha Gautama lived in the Ganges Basin during an era of intense urbanization and deepening social friction. He was surrounded by the Shramanas, wandering philosophers who had abandoned society and property to seek radical intellectual answers in the forests. Siddhartha was a human participant in this turbulent world, searching for a practical way to navigate the chaos of his time. He began with a diagnosis of the human condition, dukkha. It is the deep-seated unsatisfactoriness that comes from living in a body that eventually ages, fails, and dies. He first tried to mask this symptom with the comforts of his aristocratic life, using wealth and sensual indulgence to hide from the reality of suffering. When that failed, he swung to the other extreme, joining the ascetics to starve and punish his body in hopes of conquering his physical nature. Since worldly distraction and self-destruction both failed to provide a cure, Siddhartha was forced to develop an entirely new approach to the mind. He accepted a bowl of rice from a village girl, realizing that a starving body cannot fuel the intense mental inquiry required to solve his problem. Strengthened by this meal, he sat under a tree in Bodhi Gaya. He traded physical torture for deep, systematic mental cultivation. This was the middle way, a precise calibration between the extremes of luxury and starvation that finally allowed his mind to achieve total clarity. This balance provided the necessary stability for him to begin an inward, forensic investigation of human consciousness. He discovered dependent origination, an interconnected chain of cause and effect driving human behavior. We suffer because our minds seek permanence, trying to freeze our lives in place, even though the universe is in constant flux. Because human suffering operates as a mechanical chain reaction, it can be dismantled by targeting a single foundational link in the process. Siddhartha targeted the specific link anchoring our cravings, the concept of a solid, permanent self, known as anatta. While others taught the soul was eternal, he argued the self is actually a temporary combination of shifting processes. Internalizing this fluid view of the mind breaks the cycle of craving. By removing the permanent self from the equation, the entire chain of suffering loses its grip. For the next 45 years, the Buddha traveled across the Ganges Basin, applying this psychological framework and establishing monastic communities called the Sangha. His movement was socially radical. He ignored the rigid caste system of his era, teaching that anyone could achieve liberation through mental training alone. He deployed a psychological framework that gave individuals the tools to observe and adjust the mechanics of their own consciousness. This early movement acted as a social equalizer by democratizing the methods of human liberation. In the centuries after his death, the growth of the Mahayana traditions and the passage of time altered his practical teachings, elevating him into a cosmic, timeless entity. Yet the earliest evidence we have, like the Ashoka pillars, points to a man who lived and taught on a human scale. Siddhartha Gautama's legacy is not that of a deity, but of an observer who proved that human beings possess the inherent capacity to solve